discuss the fact that President Trump is letting murderers off the hook. More specifically, he's basically pardoning several service members, of military, or in this case, like, the Navy SEALs or other units, in some cases, for either committing, basically war crimes against, kind of like humanity, or, for ordering it or something along those lines. More specifically, in one instance, there being a commander who literally in Afghanistan had ordered his troops and had told them to kill Afghani civilians. Things like that, along with a Navy SEAL, killed someone with a hunting knife and then had threatened his fellow soldiers, saying that he would do the same thing to them. That's who Trump is letting off. That's who Trump is turning into a hero by pardoning. As I said, as I think I mentioned, the main, case and kind of concern here has kind of come up with Trump's pardoning of soldiers that have kind of been accused of war crimes has been Chief Petty Officer Ed Gallagher. He was a Navy SEAL, and he was court-martialed for several or accused, I should say, and charged with several like crimes, attempted murder. There's a bunch of different things, but basically he was accused of killing a young teenage ISIS prisoner with a hunting knife, which he took pictures of and boasted about. He was also charged with many of several other acts of attempted murder. He did some sniper work in Iraq, in which he at times would fire more indiscriminately. It was reported that many other of the snipers that were working there at the time didn't really view him as being a very good sniper. And that, excuse me, and and that he had shot innocent civilians and had boasted about his body count. There was also instances where they said that he would spray neighborhoods indiscriminately with machine gun fire or rocket fire, or whatever the case may be, with no known enemies in sight. And then, of course, there was the fact that that he also had basically, he was charged with he basically tried to intimidate witnesses, other SEALs who had testified, who had testified against him. He had basically, threatened to kill them and had sent texts basically kind of saying, to ostracize them and kind of blacklist them from the community and all that. And of course, there have been arguments that have been made, in the defense of him, including Trump, who's basically kind of said, that, we teach our soldiers to be killing machines, and they get in trouble when they do what they've been trained to do. And you also have had, other members of the special ops community in some cases as well, kind of saying, that politicians and, 4-star generals and this, they need to get out of the way, and not make judgment calls in terms of how soldiers behave, and this, that, and the other, with some kind of giving the example of, a soldier is in, is in Fallujah or whatever, and he has to go around a corner, but he's afraid, he may be afraid to shoot because it's going to be like, oh no, what if I go to jail? I get where that's coming from. I think there's a distinct difference between somebody deliberately, as was described by the account in terms of Gallagher, literally walking up to a prisoner without saying a word, no reason. I think there's a big difference between somebody deliberately let's say, killing a prisoner for no reason. with his hunting knife and then boasting about it. I also think there's, a big difference between somebody who deliberately targets, civilians, to kind of like, just for fun and to kind of boast about, their body count. We're spraying neighborhoods where there are no known, enemies, whatever the case may be, with machine gun fire or rocket fire. Even though there's no indication that any enemies have been, are in the area. Also threatening, witnesses and basically making it clear that, if you say anything, that means you're a traitor and all this and all that. If you're threatening witnesses, then that means that what you did was not ethical and was against the code of conduct and that it was unlawful. If you did what you did, and it wasn't unlawful, then you wouldn't need to threaten anyone. The fact that Gallagher had made threats and this, that, and the other means that he knew something was up. There's a big difference between that and between being in combat and possibly accidentally, when you're turning a corner or, when you're on patrol or something like that, ending up killing a civilian. There's a big difference between that and as opposed to deliberately targeting civilians. Big difference. I think this says a lot, and the fact that Trump has interceded, and also the fact that the Navy and all that and the military community overall are concerned about it. It has been reported that they've questioned, our soldiers, being involved in too many firefights. Should they cut back on the time? What should be done in order to kind of, prevent this from happening to where it becomes an okay thing to do, to, basically commit, what you could be called war crimes, crimes against humanity or whatever the case may be. There's a code of conduct and all that. And, granted, I'm not trying to say that, I know everything about combat and all that, but if you're targeting civilians and they're fucking civilians, then there's a problem. That's an issue. If you are threatening witnesses and saying that you are going to kill them if they testify, there's a problem. That means that person knows that what they did was fucking wrong. But again, there's a big difference between being in combat and in the course of being on that tour of duty, accidentally or whatever the case may be, unintentionally or whatever it is, or mistakenly or however it is, killing a civilian or something like that. Big difference, as opposed to deliberately targeting civilians. There's a big difference between that. So let's cut the bullshit right there. Let's just cut that shit. I will say one thing, though. Trump is consistent because, when it comes to dead brown people, he's all about it. He's all about it. I hate to say that, but but it's kind of like it's no problem. A man can kill women and children and all that, which apparently he has been accused of doing. And, putting aside the hunting knife incident, but just the fact that, killing women and children and all that. And he's still all about it. He still is all about it. And the best part is I hate to say this, and this is not the, but, his such strong support that he has for the military. It's ironic because he basically copped out on, serving with, shin splints. And, this is what I, don't fully understand is that somebody who copped out on shin splints and all that, because of shin splints and didn't actually go and serve or whatever the case may be, excuse me for saying this, is now all of a sudden this strong supporter of the military. Yes, the military. All the while at the same time, he also disrespected John McCain, who was a prisoner of war. This is just like I said, but again, maybe it's true. If it comes to a dead brown person, Trump's ready to defend. If it means more dead brown people, I gotta say. That's a wrong accusation, of course. we got to be careful about that. But anyway, just remember, everyone, that when you're sipping your morning cup of coffee, you're waiting for that white flash, follow that mushroom clouds, remember that we did this. This is where we are. We did this. Till next time, Lou Ford.